chance of finding her way back. Jasmine Reynolds checked the equipment in the back of Ambulance 47 with methodical precision. Oxygen tanks, defibrillator, trauma supplies, everything in its place, exactly where it should be. You know, most paramedics don't do full equipment checks every single shift, her partner, Marcus Davis, said, climbing into the driver's seat. That's what the night crew is for. I like to be prepared, Jasmine said simply, her tone suggesting the conversation was over. Marcus had been Jasmine's partner for 6 months now. He'd learned that she kept her personal life locked down tighter than the controlled substance cabinet. No talk about family, no mention of previous jobs, no stories about her life before becoming a paramedic. Just work, professional distance, and an almost obsessive attention to detail. Dispatch to 47. We have a call. Cardiac arrest, 52-year-old male, 1847 Glenwood Avenue. Jasmine was already moving, securing the equipment bay. Copy. Dispatch 47 responding. The drive took 4 minutes. Jasmine spent the time mentally reviewing cardiac arrest protocols, drug dosages, compression rates, information she knew by heart, but reviewed anyway. Because preparation prevented mistakes and mistakes, she cut off that thought before it could form completely. The scene was controlled chaos. Family members panicking, a man on the floor, unconscious, not breathing. Jasmine and Marcus moved with practiced efficiency, her hands already starting compressions while Marcus set up the bag valve mask. How long has he been down? Jasmine asked the wife. Maybe 2 minutes. He just collapsed. He was fine. And then the woman was crying, barely coherent. Jasmine's compressions were perfect, exactly the right depth, exactly the right rate. After 2 minutes, they shocked, then continued CPR. After 4 minutes, they shocked again. The man's eyes fluttered open. We've got him back, Marcus said, relief evident in his voice. Nice work, partner. As they loaded the patient into the ambulance, Jasmine's hands were steady, her voice calm as she gave the hospital report via radio. Professional, competent, unremarkable. But inside, her heart was racing because they'd be taking this patient to Mercy General. And Mercy General was where she'd sworn she'd never go again, where someone might recognize her, where her carefully constructed life could unravel in seconds. Jasmine, Marcus's voice pulled her from her thoughts. You okay? You look pale. Fine, she said automatically, just focused on the patient. But as they pulled into the Mercy General ambulance bay, Jasmine kept her head down, her face partially hidden behind her paperwork. 12 years. She'd managed to avoid this hospital for 12 years. Today, that streak was about to end. The emergency department was busy, typical for a Tuesday afternoon. Jasmine and Marcus wheeled their cardiac patient through the automatic doors, and Jasmine felt her shoulders tense automatically. Trauma Bay 3, the charge nurse directed, barely glancing at them. Good. Quick handoff, minimal interaction, then out before anyone looked too closely. Dr. Andre Jackson took the patient report, his attention on the monitors rather than on Jasmine's face. Excellent work in the field. Quick response time likely saved his life. Just doing our job, Doctor, Jasmine said, keeping her voice neutral and her eyes down. But as they prepared to leave, another doctor entered the bay, older, with a confident bearing, Dr. William Foster, head of cardiothoracic surgery. Jasmine's blood went cold. She'd worked with Foster years ago before, when she'd been someone else entirely. "Dr. Jackson, I heard we had a cardiac save," Foster was saying, scanning the chart. "Paramedics did excellent field work. Where are they?" Jasmine was already moving toward the door, but Marcus, oblivious, spoke up. "That would be us, Doctor. My partner here did most of the work." Foster looked up, his eyes moving to Jasmine's face. She saw the moment of recognition flicker across his features. Confusion, then certainty, then shock. "I'm sorry. Have we met?" Foster asked carefully, his tone suggesting he knew exactly who she was, but couldn't quite believe it. "No, Doctor," Jasmine said quickly. "Common face. We need to clear for the next call." She was out the door before Foster could respond, moving fast enough that Marcus had to jog to keep up. "Jasmine, what the hell? That was rude, even for you. We have paperwork to complete." "In the ambulance," Jasmine said, her voice tight. "Let's go." But in the ambulance, after they'd cleared the hospital, Marcus studied her face. What was that about? What was what about? "That doctor knew you." "He didn't." "Jasmine, I saw his face. He absolutely recognized you." Marcus's voice grew more insistent. "Who are you really? Because I've been your partner for 6 months, and I'm starting to think Jasmine Reynolds isn't even your real name." Jasmine stared straight ahead, her hands gripping the steering wheel. "My name is Jasmine Reynolds. I'm a paramedic. That's all you need to know." "Is it? Because the way you practice medicine, it's not like other paramedics. You know things you shouldn't know. You see patterns before they're obvious. You handle complex cases like someone with years of advanced medical training." Marcus paused. "Jasmine, if you're hiding something, if there's something I should know about my partner—" "There isn't," Jasmine interrupted. "I'm just good at my job." But that night, alone in her small apartment, Jasmine stared at the locked drawer in her bedroom. Inside, medical diplomas in a different name, newspaper clippings from 12 years ago, and a medical license that had been revoked with the words "gross negligence resulting in patient death" stamped across it. Dr. Olivia Washington. That's who she used to be, a promising young surgeon with a bright future. Until one mistake, one terrible decision, one patient who died on her operating table had destroyed everything. She'd spent 12 years rebuilding herself as Jasmine Reynolds, paramedic. 12 years keeping her distance from hospitals and doctors who might remember. 12 years hiding from the worst moment of her life. But tonight, Dr. Foster had recognized her, and Jasmine knew that her carefully constructed wall of silence was beginning to crack. The next day, Jasmine requested a different coverage area, anything that would keep her away from Mercy General. Dispatch accommodated, sending them to the Eastern District, where the hospitals were smaller and less likely to have doctors from her past. But Marcus wasn't letting it go. "I did some research last night," he said during their lunch break. "Jasmine Reynolds, certified paramedic, excellent record. But here's the thing. Your employment history only goes back 8 years. Before that, nothing. No previous jobs, no references, no trail." Jasmine kept eating her sandwich, not responding. "It's like you didn't exist before 8 years ago," Marcus continued. "Which is weird, right? Because you're what? Late 30s? Where were you for the first 30 years of your life? Marcus, drop it. I can't drop it. You're my partner. I need to trust you. And right now, I feel like I'm working with a ghost. Marcus leaned forward. Jasmine, if you're running from something, if you did something, I need to know. I didn't do anything illegal, Jasmine said quietly. But you did something. Something you're hiding. Marcus's voice was gentle now, not accusatory. Look, I don't care about your past. I care about whether I can trust you in the field. And right now, with all these secrets, I'm not sure I can. Before Jasmine could respond, dispatch called. 47. We have a multi-vehicle accident on Highway 25. Multiple casualties. All available units respond. The conversation was tabled as they rushed to the scene. A horrific crash involving 6 vehicles. Triage was chaos. Jasmine moved efficiently through the casualties, assessing, prioritizing, directing other paramedics to the most critical patients. This one first, she said, kneeling beside a woman with obvious chest trauma. Pneumothorax needs decompression before transport. Jasmine, that's not our call, Marcus said. We triage and transport. Doctors make the treatment decisions. She'll die before we reach the hospital, Jasmine said, already reaching for a needle. I can decompress here, stabilize her for transport. That's outside our scope of practice. Then don't watch, Jasmine said, and performed a needle decompression with the confidence of someone who'd done it hundreds of times. The woman's breathing improved immediately. They loaded her and rushed to the nearest hospital, which, of course, was Mercy General. This time, Dr. Foster was waiting in the trauma bay when they arrived. The paramedic who performed field decompression, Foster said immediately. I need to speak with her. Jasmine's stomach dropped. I need to return to service. Now, Foster said, his voice carrying authority that couldn't be ignored. In a private consultation room, Foster closed the door and turned to face her. Dr. Washington, or should I say, Jasmine Reynolds. Jasmine said nothing. I thought I recognized you yesterday, but I couldn't believe it. Olivia Washington, one of the most promising young surgeons I ever trained, working as a paramedic under a false name. Foster's expression was complex, confusion, concern, something that might have been pity. What happened to you? I'm not Dr. Washington anymore, Jasmine said quietly. That person doesn't exist. Because of the Johnson case. Jasmine flinched at the name. Tyrone Johnson, the patient who died on her table 12 years ago, the case that had ended her career. You lost your license, Foster continued. Gross negligence, they said. I never believed it. You were too careful, too skilled, but you didn't fight the ruling. You just disappeared. I didn't fight because I was guilty, Jasmine said, her voice hollow. Tyrone Johnson died because I made a wrong decision, because I was arrogant enough to think I could save a patient with a condition I'd only read about in textbooks. You were trying to save his life. I killed him, Jasmine interrupted, and I've spent 12 years living with that. 12 years rebuilding myself into someone who can't make those kinds of mistakes anymore. Someone who works within strict protocols and never exceeds their scope of practice. Except you just performed a needle decompression in the field, which is exactly exceeding scope of practice. Jasmine's hands were shaking now. She would have died. I couldn't. I couldn't let someone else die because I was too afraid to act. Foster was quiet for a long moment. Jasmine, Dr. Washington, do you know what happened after the Johnson case? After you disappeared? I know I lost my license. I know I can never practice medicine again. Do you know that the medical board reopened your case 3 years ago? That new evidence suggested the patient had an undiagnosed clotting disorder that would have killed him regardless of treatment? That you were actually exonerated posthumously? Jasmine stared at him. What? You're not guilty of negligence, Dr. Washington. You never were. The patient's family provided additional medical history that wasn't in the original records. The board reversed their decision. Your license could be reinstated. The room felt like it was tilting. That's not possible. I killed him. I made the wrong call. You made the best call with the information you had. Medicine isn't about being perfect. It's about doing your best with incomplete information under impossible pressure. Foster pulled out his phone. Dr. Washington, Olivia, you've been living under a cloud of guilt for 12 years. Based on a ruling that was overturned, you can come back. You can practice medicine again. Jasmine felt tears on her face that she hadn't realized were falling. I don't know how to be her anymore. Dr. Washington, she's gone. I'm Jasmine Reynolds now. Then maybe Jasmine Reynolds needs to learn that running from your past doesn't make it go away. It just makes you smaller. Foster handed her a business card. This is the medical board contact. Call them, learn the truth, and then decide who you want to be. After Foster left, Jasmine sat alone in the consultation room, holding a business card that promised everything she'd lost 12 years ago. The question was, did she have the courage to reach for it? Or would she keep hiding, keep running, keep being Jasmine Reynolds instead of Olivia Washington? She didn't know. But for the first time in 12 years, she had a choice, and that terrified her more than anything. Jasmine sat in the consultation room for 20 minutes after Foster left, staring at the business card. Medical Licensing Board, a phone number, a name, Dr. Regina Miles, Director of Licensure Review. One phone call. That's all it would take to learn if what Foster said was true. If 12 years of guilt and hiding had been based on a ruling that no longer stood. But Jasmine couldn't make herself dial, because if it was true, if she'd been exonerated, then she'd wasted 12 years of her life. 12 years of diminished dreams, of hiding her skills, of being less than she could have been. And if it wasn't true, if Foster was wrong or misremembering, then she'd be ripping open wounds that had barely scarred over. Jasmine, Marcus's voice at the door. You okay? Dispatch is asking about our availability. Jasmine pocketed the card quickly. Fine, let's go. But Marcus had seen her face. What did that doctor say to you? Nothing important. Jasmine, I said it's nothing, Marcus. Can we just do our job? The rest of the shift was tense, punctuated by calls that felt routine compared to the turmoil in Jasmine's head. A diabetic emergency, a broken leg, an asthma attack. Cases she could handle with her eyes closed, using a fraction of the knowledge she possessed. Knowledge she'd spent 12 years pretending not to have. At shift end, as they cleaned the ambulance, Marcus finally confronted her. I know something's going on. I know that doctor recognized you. and I know you're carrying something heavy that's affecting your work." He paused. "Jasmine, I'm your partner. You don't have to tell me everything, but you have to tell me enough that I can trust you." Jasmine was silent for a long moment. Then, "What if I told you I used to be someone else? Someone who made a terrible mistake and lost everything because of it?" "I'd say everyone has a past. Everyone makes mistakes." Marcus leaned against the ambulance. "The question is whether you learned from it, whether you're better now than you were then." "I don't know if I am," Jasmine admitted. "I've spent 12 years being less than I was, playing it safe, never taking risks. I've been so afraid of making another mistake that I stopped being the person I was supposed to be. Or maybe you became a different person, one who saved hundreds of lives in the field, one who never gives up on a patient, one who performed an emergency decompression today because she knew it was right, even if it was against protocol." Marcus met her eyes. "Jasmine, I don't know who you used to be, but I know who you are now. And that person is one hell of a paramedic." Jasmine felt something crack inside her chest, not breaking, but opening. "What if I told you I used to be a surgeon, and I lost my license because a patient died?" Marcus didn't look shocked. "I'd say that explains a lot about how you practice medicine, about why you see things other paramedics miss." He paused. "Is that what you're hiding? That you used to be a doctor?" "Yes, and I changed my name because I couldn't face being that person anymore. Couldn't face the guilt and the shame and the knowledge that I'd failed." "Did you fail? Or did you just experience what every doctor experiences eventually? The reality that you can't save everyone?" Jasmine pulled out the business card Foster had given her. "The doctor today. He said my case was reopened, that I was exonerated, that it wasn't my fault after all." "And you don't believe him?" "I don't know what to believe." Jasmine stared at the card. "If it's true, it means I've been wrong about myself for 12 years. That I've been hiding from a guilt I didn't need to carry, that I've wasted more than a decade of my life." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Or it means you get a second chance, a chance to be who you were supposed to be, a chance to use all that knowledge and skill and training instead of hiding it." He nodded at the card. "Make the call, Jasmine. Learn the truth, and then decide who you want to be moving forward." That night, Jasmine sat in her apartment with her phone in one hand and the business card in the other. It was 9 p.m. Too late to call the medical board. She'd have to wait until morning, which meant a sleepless night thinking about Tyrone Johnson, about the surgery that had gone wrong, about the moment she'd realized he was dying, and there was nothing she could do to stop it, about the medical board hearing where they'd ruled her negligent, reckless, unfit to practice medicine, about 12 years of living as half a person, using half her skills, being half of what she could have been. At 8 a.m. the next morning, before she could talk herself out of it, Jasmine dialed the number. "Medical Licensing Board, Dr. Miles speaking." "Dr. Miles. My name was Dr. Olivia Washington. I was told my case was reopened and the ruling was reversed. I need to know if that's true." There was a pause. "Dr. Washington? We've been trying to reach you for 3 years. Where have you been?" That's complicated. Is it true? Was I exonerated? Yes. The Johnson family provided medical records showing the patient had factor V Leiden, an undiagnosed clotting disorder. The hematology experts testified that no treatment would have saved him. The initial ruling was based on incomplete information. Dr. Miles's voice was kind. Dr. Washington, you were cleared of negligence. Your license can be reinstated if you complete a re-entry program. Did you not receive our letters? I changed my name, changed my life. I thought I could never practice medicine again. You can. You absolutely can. But Dr. Washington, why did you disappear? Why didn't you fight the initial ruling? Jasmine's voice was barely a whisper. Because I believed I was guilty. Because I thought I deserved to lose everything. Well, you were wrong. And now you have a choice. Stay hidden or come back to medicine. But Dr. Washington, the medical community needs good doctors. Doctors who care deeply, who take patient deaths seriously, who hold themselves accountable. That's you. Don't let 12 years of guilt keep the world from benefiting from your skills. After hanging up, Jasmine sat in silence, processing. Everything Foster had said was true. She'd been exonerated. She could practice medicine again. The question was, did she have the courage to stop being Jasmine Reynolds and become Dr. Olivia Washington again? Or had 12 years of hiding changed her so fundamentally that she could never go back? She didn't know, but she was about to find out. Jasmine didn't return to work immediately. She called in sick for the first time in 8 years, needing time to process the revelation that had shattered her carefully constructed world. For 12 years, she'd been Jasmine Reynolds, paramedic, safe, limited, hiding. Now she had to decide if she could become Dr. Olivia Washington again. She pulled out the locked drawer, the one she hadn't opened in years. Inside, her medical diploma stared back at her. Olivia Nicole Washington, Doctor of Medicine, Howard University, summa cum laude. Top of her class, a future that had once seemed limitless. Below the diplomas, newspaper clippings. Surgeon loses license after patient death. Medical board rules negligence in Johnson case. Promising career ends in tragedy. And at the bottom, a photo. Tyrone Johnson with his family, wife, 3 children, all smiling. The man she'd tried to save. The man who died on her operating table despite everything she'd attempted. Jasmine had kept this photo as penance, as reminder, as proof that her guilt was justified. Now Dr. Miles was telling her the guilt had been misplaced, that Tyrone Johnson would have died regardless of treatment, that his undiagnosed clotting disorder had made survival impossible. But Jasmine had carried the weight of his death for 12 years. How could she just let it go? Her phone rang. Marcus. Jasmine, I know you're processing. A lot. But we've got a situation. Mass casualty incident. Building collapse downtown. They're calling in every available paramedic. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Because whatever she was dealing with personally, people needed help. And Jasmine, whether she was Jasmine Reynolds or Olivia Washington, couldn't ignore that call. The collapse site was chaos. A 5-story apartment building had partially collapsed after a gas explosion. Dozens of people trapped, injuries ranging from minor to critical. Jasmine arrived and immediately fell into triage mode, assessing victims with practiced efficiency. But as she worked, she found herself making medical decisions that went beyond paramedic protocols, diagnostic observations that required physician-level knowledge. "This patient has compartment syndrome developing," she told a younger paramedic. "Mark her for immediate surgical consultation." "How can you tell?" "From the swelling pattern and neurovascular signs. Trust me, mark her urgent." As the afternoon wore on, Jasmine found herself naturally taking command, coordinating the medical response with an authority that came from years of surgical training. Dr. Foster appeared, leading the hospital trauma team. He saw Jasmine and made his way over. "Dr. Washington, you called the medical board." "I did." Jasmine continued working as she talked, her hands never stopping. "You were right. I was exonerated 3 years ago. And I don't know what to do with that information. I've been Jasmine Reynolds for so long that I don't know how to be Olivia Washington anymore." Foster gestured to the disaster site around them. "You're already being her. Look at how you're working. Physician-level triage, advanced diagnostics, command presence. Jasmine Reynolds is a paramedic. Dr. Washington is leading a mass casualty response." "But I killed Tyrone Johnson." "No, you didn't. His clotting disorder killed him. You tried to save him with the information you had." Foster's voice was firm. "Olivia, you can keep punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. Or you can honor Tyrone Johnson's memory by using your skills to save others. What do you think he'd want?" Before Jasmine could answer, a call came from the collapsed site. "We need medical personnel inside. We've got survivors trapped on the 3rd floor, but the structure is unstable. We need someone who can do emergency stabilization before we can move them." The fire chief approached the medical team. "I need a doctor willing to go in. It's dangerous. The building could collapse further at any moment. But we've got at least 3 critical patients who won't survive transport without immediate intervention." Jasmine felt her training kicking in. The same training that had made her a promising surgeon. The same instinct that had led her into medicine in the first place. "I'll go," she said. Foster looked at her sharply. "Jasmine, Dr. Washington," she corrected herself. "My name is Dr. Olivia Washington, and I'm volunteering to go in." The fire chief studied her. "You're qualified for emergency field surgery?" "Howard University trained. 12 years of emergency medicine experience, 8 years of field trauma." Jasmine's voice was steady. "I'm qualified." Foster gripped her shoulder. "Olivia, you don't have to prove anything." "Yes, I do." Jasmine met his eyes. "Not to you, to myself. For 12 years, I've been hiding because I was afraid of making another mistake. But those people in there, they need someone who's willing to take the risk. Someone who won't let fear paralyze them. Someone who remembers that medicine is about saving lives, not about protecting yourself from failure." She turned to the fire chief. "Get me a medical kit and show me where they are." As Jasmine entered the unstable building, Marcus caught up with her. "Jasmine, Dr. Washington, whatever your name is, I'm coming with you." "Marcus, you don't have to." "Yeah, I do. You're my partner, and partners don't let each other go into danger alone." He grinned slightly. "Besides, I want to see what a real surgeon looks like in action." Inside the collapsed building, they found 3 patients. a woman with a crushed pelvis, a man with severe chest trauma, and a child with a compound leg fracture. Jasmine assessed rapidly, her mind falling into the familiar pattern of emergency triage. The woman first. She's bleeding internally. Then the man. The child is stable enough to wait. She knelt beside the woman, and her hands moved with the confidence of someone who'd done this thousands of times. Not as a paramedic following protocols, but as a surgeon making life or death decisions. "I need to compress the bleeding," Jasmine said, her hands working inside the woman's abdominal cavity with precision that made Marcus stare. "This is outside normal field protocols, but she'll die if I don't." "Then do it," Marcus said simply. "I trust you." For the next 40 minutes, Jasmine was Dr. Olivia Washington again. Not hiding, not holding back, not afraid to use every skill she possessed. She stabilized the woman, treated the man's pneumothorax, splinted the child's leg, all while the building groaned and shifted around them. When rescue teams finally extracted all 3 patients alive, Jasmine emerged from the building covered in dust and blood, her hands shaking from adrenaline, but her eyes clear. Foster was waiting. "All 3 patients are going to make it. You saved their lives." "We saved their lives," Jasmine corrected, nodding to Marcus and the rescue team. "No," Foster said firmly. Jasmine Reynolds might have triaged them and waited for extraction. Dr. Olivia Washington went into an unstable building and performed emergency procedures that kept them alive. There's a difference. Jasmine looked at her hands, surgeons' hands that had been pretending to be paramedics' hands for 12 years, hands that had just saved 3 lives because she'd finally stopped hiding what they could do. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now," Jasmine said slowly, "I have to decide who I want to be. Jasmine Reynolds, paramedic who plays it safe, or Dr. Olivia Washington, surgeon who takes risks to save lives." "Can't you be both?" Marcus suggested. "Can't you be Dr. Washington who learned from Jasmine Reynolds? Someone who has the skills of a surgeon but the humility of someone who's experienced failure." Jasmine considered that. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe she didn't have to choose between Jasmine and Olivia. Maybe she could integrate both, the skilled surgeon she'd been and the cautious, thoughtful person she'd become. "Dr. Washington," Foster said, "the medical board can fast-track your reinstatement if you're willing to complete a re-entry program. 3 months of supervised practice, then full license restoration. Interested?" Jasmine thought about Tyrone Johnson, about 12 years of hiding, about 3 patients who'd just survived because she'd finally stopped being afraid to use her skills. "Yes," she said. "I'm interested, but I have one condition." "What's that?" "I want to work in emergency medicine, not surgery. I've learned that I'm better when I have to make quick decisions without time to overthink, when I have to trust my instincts instead of second-guessing everything." Foster smiled. "I think that can be arranged. Welcome back, Dr. Washington." 3 months later, Dr. Olivia Washington stood in her new office at Mercy General's emergency department, not huge, not prestigious, but hers, earned through 12 weeks of supervised practice where she'd proven she could still practice medicine at the highest level. Her medical license, reinstated, hung on the wall beside her diplomas, and next to it, a photo of the 3 patients from the building collapse, all recovered and healthy. But she'd also kept one thing from her Jasmine Reynolds life, her paramedic certification, because those 8 years hadn't been wasted. They'd taught her field medicine, practical triage, and humility that her younger, arrogant surgeon self had lacked. Marcus appeared in her doorway, now working as an ER physician assistant. "Dr. Washington, we've got a multi-trauma coming in. Thought you might want to take the lead." "Absolutely." Olivia stood, pulling at her white coat. It felt strange after 12 years, but also right, like coming home. In the ER, she worked with the same precision she'd shown in the field, but without the fear that had haunted her for so long. When she made decisions, she made them confidently, informed by both her surgical training and her paramedic experience. Dr. Washington, a young resident, approached after the trauma was stabilized. "That was incredible. The way you managed that case. Where did you train?" "Howard University for medical school. But I learned the most important lessons working as a paramedic for 8 years." Olivia Kew smiled. Never underestimate what you can learn by starting over. That evening, Olivia visited the cemetery for the first time in 12 years. Tyrone Johnson's grave. She'd been too afraid before, too consumed by guilt. Now she knelt and placed flowers by the headstone. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you," she said quietly. "I'm sorry I let your death define me for so long instead of letting it teach me. But I'm trying to do better now. I'm trying to honor your memory by saving others." She paused. "I hope that's enough." She didn't expect an answer, but somehow saying the words aloud helped. Not forgiveness. She wasn't sure she'd ever fully forgive herself. But acceptance. Understanding that she'd done her best with the information she had, and that sometimes, despite everything, patients still died. Her phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Miles at the medical board. "Dr. Washington, I have a request. Would you be willing to speak at a conference about physician wellness and recovery? Your story about losing your license, rebuilding yourself, and returning to medicine could help other doctors facing similar struggles." Olivia typed back, "Yes, I'd be honored." Because maybe that was the real lesson. Not that she'd failed with Tyrone Johnson, but that she'd survived the failure. She'd fallen as far as a doctor could fall, and she'd found a way back. Other physicians needed to know that failure wasn't final, that losing everything didn't mean you couldn't rebuild, that shame and guilt could be transformed into wisdom and compassion. Walking to her car, Olivia caught her reflection in the hospital windows. Not Jasmine Reynolds, hiding behind protocols and fear. Not the arrogant young surgeon who'd thought she was invincible, but Dr. Olivia Washington, someone who'd experienced the worst and emerged stronger, wiser, more human. For 12 years, she'd hidden her past, but the emergency that forced her to reveal it hadn't destroyed her. It had freed her. Freed her to be the doctor she was always meant to be. Skilled but humble. Confident but cautious. Experienced in both success and failure. If you've ever faced a personal or professional setback that made you question your worth, remember that your journey isn't over. Like Dr. Washington, you may find that starting again, even from rock bottom, can lead to unexpected strength and wisdom. Your past doesn't have to define your future. Take that first step toward reclaiming your potential today.